Hi, and welcome to Psychology Demystified. It's challenging alone to manage someone who is difficult. But imagine trying to handle someone, or work with someone, or work for someone when they have a position of power over you. That is truly challenging. Now, when we talk of someone being difficult, what exactly are we saying? Someone's personality is pegged as being difficult when the individual or the person does not honor and engage in the usual rules and social conventions that are taught by society for fairness and for mutual respect. Difficult personalities can come in a number of forms. I'm going to mention some of the forms that they can come in. For starters, they can be passive-aggressive and engage in a passive-aggressive communication style. They can be overtly hostile or even verbally aggressive. They can have a bad temper. They can also be someone who tries to split allegiances and loyalties to those around them, so they cause rifts. They're also people who feel threatened when someone seems a bit too competent or a bit too strong. And someone who is difficult can also be someone who engages in very defensive behavior or even combative behavior when someone holds them accountable for their inappropriate behavior. Any and all of these personality traits are truly frustrating to deal with in any way, shape, or form for any amount of time. But they're even worse when the person has a position of power over you. When I said a position of power, some of you immediately thought of your bosses, but a position of power could be the following people. A person in position of power could be your partner, or your parents, or of course a boss, or even someone else who you're currently forced to rely on for something. What happens when they don't follow the protocol of someone who is your supervisor or someone who has more power over you, it just causes anxiety to you and it just adds to your frustration when you're trying to deal with your day. The crazy thing is, as confusing as this behavior might be for you, and as frustrating as it might be for you, the key thing is keeping a smooth interaction with them is crucial. It's crucial. So your question then is, how on earth am I supposed to do that? Well, here are a few key steps for you to be able to manage your relationship with someone who is difficult, but in a position of power. For starters, avoid sharing personal details and information about yourself. Allowing someone who's difficult and in a position of power as well to have an insight into your true thoughts and your feelings can be emotionally risky. And another thing is, you never know when this same person is going to use what you've told them as leverage against you. People often find that sharing personal information or emotional information with these people who are difficult and in a position of power over you eventually tends to cause anxiety, frustration, stress, and anger as well, because you've left yourself vulnerable to them and to their sadistic ways. The second one might make you gag a little, especially if the person is extremely difficult and seems to just be in your face and in your way all the time. And that is that you need to express appreciation even for the most insignificant, the smallest things. Now, this recommendation might sound truly problematic to you, but in the same breath, it's important to note that this recommendation does not apply if the person is doing something illegal or being extremely abusive towards you. Definitely not then. By expressing your appreciation for the smallest, tiniest things, what you end up doing is that you find a way to avoid engaging in power struggles with this already difficult personality because you are so busy appreciating what they've done. Yeah, it might make you want to gag a little, but peace of mind is so important. And I know some of you are thinking, yeah, but that's not fair. Yeah, it's not fair. But at the same time, it just helps to smooth the relationship. You don't need more drama in your life from this person if they're already difficult. And people who are difficult in your professional setting, and sometimes even in your personal setting, usually are people who are grandiose anyway. That means that most times they're people who want to feel singled out for being amazing and powerful. The position of power for them is not enough. When you express appreciation, sometimes you throw them off because you've not given them ammunition to come and make you their target because you said something nice. So then they might have to move on to the next target because they can't come and react to the nice things you said, because then they'll just seem crazy. And they never want to seem crazy because their position of power makes them feel like they are superior. And you cannot be superior and nuts in public. Okay, some can, but you hope that most of them don't want to be superior and nuts in public. And you know what? Sneakily, what you're making them do is you are making them feel good about themselves and avoiding triggering their most intense insecurities, which are the ones that actually make them that person. Third point with them, always be prepared, always be focused, and always be organized around them. A difficult personality has the most power over you when they catch you off guard, when they find you vulnerable, or when they find you unprepared for their attacks. To avoid them getting under your skin with their weird, usually random, out of nowhere verbal provocations and their personal digs as well, because they're that kind of personality, the number one thing you need to do is you need to always be mentally and emotionally organized and prepared, especially when you're in their presence. Don't let them catch you off guard. That's the worst thing. And that is the most annoying thing, because you're left wondering, why didn't I respond and say this or that? Because they caught you off guard. So once you know who they are and you know what to expect from them, make sure you always see them coming. The next thing is always make sure that you have multiple outlets where you can vent your frustration. That is so important for you. You will find that going to the gym and punching that punching bag and exercising sometimes isn't enough. You will find that talking to friends sometimes isn't enough. You will also find that journaling, because maybe you don't want to talk to anyone, just isn't enough. You need multiple outlets. When you find yourself entrenched in this difficult, no way to win dynamic, you have to find multiple coping mechanisms, because you're going to have so many complex feelings that arise just from interacting with them. And that is why one way to cope sometimes just is not enough. And finally, it's important for you to note that dealing with a difficult personality is going to continue to be a challenge, especially if you remain within their orbit. The reason why it remains difficult is because a lot of these personalities are usually resistant to change. And individuals with these difficult personalities can become better people. Some do, but it's rare. It's because people who are like this have developed these extensive defensive mechanisms just to protect their ego. So when you go in hoping that this person will change someday, you might be setting yourself up for frustration and for loads of anxiety, because you're asking them to change a fundamental part of their personality. So your request for them to change is understandable, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind that it is kind of a tricky and difficult endeavor, since you cannot be responsible for someone else's change. Since you cannot sit around waiting for them to change, what you can do and what you should do is look out for you. And you would do well to ask yourself a couple of questions when you deal with this difficult personality. And those questions are, how many more months or years can you continue in this kind of dynamic without having your mental health suffer, your mood suffer, your zeal or your joy for life suffer, your ability to function well also suffer? Because remember, you have to look out for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to be kind, because you don't know what someone is going through. And to you, hugs and kindness always. Bye.